Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. We want to give everybody a chance to log on, so hang tight for just a few minutes.
I have a trivia question if you want to break the ice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what is the only letter in the alphabet that is not used in the names of the United States?
My initial thought was X, and then I remembered Texas. So
Is
Yep.
it Q?
You? Yep.
Q?
Jackie is correct. So I
nailed
wish I'd give you $1,000 virtually. So
it.
yeah. So just little trivia things. I have more if you need me to go in there, but it's okay.
Maybe that should be the next state and regional session, is just a trivia time with Chris.
I only get these from just recent flights where the the flight attendants were more fun and they had some of this stuff. So I was like, oh, I'd never really thought of this type of stuff. So yeah, a lot of people were wondering. I initially thought X though too, like you were saying, Chris, Katie, and I was like, oh yeah, Texas, duh. And I was thinking, what about Z? It's like, oh yeah, Arizona. I'm like, what about you? Like, oh yeah, like Connecticut or other stuff. So it just interesting. So another quick one, I guess, if you want. What are the two states that don't recognize daylight savings time?
I know one is Arizona.
Yes.
And I know the other one is Hawaii.
Yep, exactly. So divide and conquer. So I guess in the spirit, since we just lost an hour last with this past weekend, now you just lost a couple minutes of your life through this trivia question. So
uh, all right. Well, we can go ahead and get started. It looks like most the participants have kind of tapered off. So, Belma, if you want to go ahead and move on to the next slide, it's just very brief, our agenda for today. We are going to do some brief introductions, and then we will mostly be spending time today in conversation. This is meant to be a networking event. It's meant to be very participative. So please share your thoughts and ideas as we go through today's webinar. We will hopefully be getting into some breakout rooms here to talk about position-specific issues, and we'll kind of form those breakout rooms depending on the roles that you all play at your own state and regional, and then we'll wrap up and give you some resources. So if you want to go to the next slide, I will introduce myself out loud, but if the rest of you want to put in the chat maybe your state and regional and the position that you hold within your committee. Looks like we have a lot of you macro people here. My name is Katie Brown. I'm the AVP for Student Success and University Registrar at Aspen University. I'm located in Aurora, Colorado. I am currently the president for RAMACRO, Rocky Mountain Acro, and I previously served as the historian for that organization. So I've been in a few different roles now. I'm also a member of Acro State and Regional Relations Committee. Let's see. Anybody else want to put in the chat what position that you have? It'll help us figure out the breakout rooms that we need. So I appreciate you putting that in there. We have a secretary, we've got a president, treasurer, communications, president, president-elect, historian. Awesome. So it looks like we have a good mix there. Belma, if you want to go to the next slide. So we will be operating this webinar. If you're part of Acro Caucuses, it'll be somewhat similar, where we'll be going into breakout rooms and having some discussions. What we were originally thinking is doing breakout rooms for maybe the presidential series, financial roles, VPs, and then other. Based on the mix that we have here today, maybe we do 2 breakout rooms, one for presidential series and then one for other. We don't want anyone to be in a breakout room by themselves. So we can break it down into those 2. And we have some discussion prompts here to kind of lead the conversation, but we want this to be organic. So how are you defining these roles within your organization? What are the pain points that you're experiencing in your roles? Is there anything you've tried to fix those pain points, or things that are working or definitely haven't worked for you? How are you recruiting new members into those leadership roles? And then anything else that's a relevant topic that you want to discuss in your group. We will probably spend maybe 30 minutes in these breakout rooms having this discussion. We'll get back together and you can share any best practices that you came up with, or ask questions of the bigger group if you would like. And then we'll end with some resources from the State and Regional Relations Committee. Perfect. So I think Belma's going to set up our breakout rooms for us.
Sounds good. So, Katie, just to make sure, you would like 2, you said, right? The presidential series and other roles, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Let's do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll allow folks to self-select so they can.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. Just gonna.
If you've not used breakout rooms before, you'll get a pop-up and you can select the mini Zoom room that you're going to join.
All right, there you go.
Thank you, Belma.
You're welcome.
I know I know in our presidential series, we kind of got cut off in the middle of a sentence. We were talking about ways that we communicate with our membership. So we might just finish that thought and let the other group jump in as well. I know we had said LinkedIn and newsletters. I'll say for Remacro, we have tried the MemberClicks forums, and those are not working. So no one wants to engage on those in our state and regional anyway.
Okay. Well, good. Well, thank you. Like I said, I think we're going to speak about, setting up that LinkedIn for Kansas Acro on there, where it becomes more of the professional and not having to worry about it using your personal Facebook account and that kind of stuff. So just like I said, just wondering. Thank you.
Yeah. I will say, because we experienced this in Remacro, when you set up your LinkedIn, make sure you're using one of your organizational emails, because ours had originally been set up by someone's personal work email, and then they no longer worked at that institution. Okay. And it took our communications director quite a bit of time to get LinkedIn to give her access to that account. So,
okay.
Best practice for anyone setting up a LinkedIn.
Noted.
All right. We'll have a few minutes left still. So if anybody has any best practices or cool topics that you were discussing in your group and you want to continue the conversation or share with the other breakout room, we can do maybe 5 minutes or so of just general conversation. I know in the presidential series, we talked a lot about conference planning, is where that went, and then how to engage members when you're spread out over a larger region. But yeah, any thoughts anyone wants to share?
Was there anything from the presidential meeting on ideas to get more membership? In our group for UMACRO and IACRO, and forgive me if I'm forgetting the other group, Chris, his name, they had like 120 and we had towards 100 attendees. I know we had 35, maybe to 40 new attendees, Tiffany, for IACRO. So we're pretty close, but IACRO is unique because it's just Illinois, and the other ones are like, 3 or 4 states that are together. So it sounds like everybody's struggling on trying to find more ways to get more involvement from other schools in the organization. So was there anything that you guys came up in your group about more ways to get people involved?
One of the things that we had talked about that I will admit that I haven't tried, but it sparked ideas for me and I was taking notes. My region is Wyoming, New Mexico, and Colorado. And so one of the things that I wrote down is perhaps doing a specialized travel scholarship for when our conference is in New Mexico, like for the Wyoming people, because we recognize that it costs more for them to get there than maybe those of us in Colorado who only have to go one state over. Because we do see that when our conferences are held in Colorado, since it's central and it's bigger, there's much more attendance than when we hold them on the further ends of the spectrum geographically. So that's one thing that I'm going to bring back to my board and maybe talk about for next year, but we'll see if it works or not. I'll report back.
Hey, real quick. So IACRO, I guess Tiffany, we didn't ask you this, but so how many people usually attend your guys' annual conference?
I don't remember what the numbers were pre-COVID. I don't know, maybe Chris remembers, since he was president, during one of those years. But I mean, I think last year we were around 90-ish. This year we were around 100-ish, so it dropped. But what happens is, since we're just a state, we alternate the location, like north versus south, kind of, sort of, in the state. So 125-ish. Okay. So we're still not where we were pre-COVID as far as attendees, but we do see a fluctuation in attendance when we're further south in Illinois. I do that because we're not really that far south this past and closer to Chicago. We usually have more when we're at the closer to Chicago location versus the South Illinois location. So it's always fluctuates depending on, and we alternate years. So next year we'll be closer to the Chicago area. So it's kind of hard to, I mean, even with, I'm sure with the regionals, because you're in different states, it's kind of hard to say, oh, your attendance should be kind of about the same every year because you're in different locations. So
we'll do here in Kansas, we'll do anywhere from, oh gosh, what's it been? What did we have last year? I think we had about 160 last year. And I know in the mid 2000s, we were up over 200 attending our state conference, but these last couple of years, again, it'd been between 160 to 180 for these last couple of years on there. So just trying to figure that out. And we kind of do the same thing. We kind of go east, central, west, and kind of just try to rotate those in thirds as well. So I know next year we're going to Dodge City, so we're getting the heck into Dodge on there. So numbers maybe down a little bit.
Is that your conference slogan?
Huh?
Is that going to be the conference slogan?
No, we've already used that before. I actually worked at Dodge City Community College when we hosted in 03 and 13 in Dodge. So I have to look it up. They already have their logo and everything ready. So shouldn't be too bad.
This might, I was going to say, this might be random. I kind of brought up the whole thing in our group. Should it really be the president-elect planning the conference? Especially, I was telling them it was selfishly because of me, because I wasn't on the board right before I moved into the president-elect role. But then it's like, okay, yes, you're the conference planner, which I know that's the role. But then as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, should it be the president-elect shadowing the president? And so as they're planning the conference, so then when they move into the presidential role, since it's a 3-term type of deal, president-elect, president, past president, that they're ready to do it, it was just me kind of thinking out loud. I was like, I don't know. I mean, it's been working, obviously, but I'm like, it's kind of an interesting thought, I guess, on my part. Maybe it's just interesting to me.
It's a trial by fire situation.
I was going to say it's like a rite of passage, probably one of those things, right? That it's just kind of thing. But the way I look at it would be, if you're president, you have a lot more on your plate potentially, and conference planning can be its own thing. So your focus in area. I think I see where you're coming from, Tiffany. But I think it's just a matter of workload potentially in terms of state regionals.
Yeah. I have thoughts about that too. I'm like, well, outside of running the board meetings, I mean, I know everybody's state and regional runs different, but outside of them planning like the board meetings throughout the year and taking kind of the lead of certain things during the annual meeting, what else would be in so much on their plate that they couldn't? And again, when I say the president-elect would be shadowing, but kind of sort of assisting, like an assistant conference planner type of situation. I was just sitting there like, okay, I'm just listening, but actually helping, but kind of more shadowing and learning, so that when they're in president role the next year, they like kind of can take the reins a little bit stronger than kind of having to go back and forth with everybody else to try to get things together while they're in the president-elect role. But I digress.
Jessica, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that kind of the way where the UMacro is set up? So the president-elect will oversee the program LAC chair and serve as a mentor or a guide in that respect and help with some of the details. But really, it's the president who takes on a bulk of the management, I think, for us.
Yeah. And that was what I was telling Tiffany during ours is, I think we found it on a program description and it had said that, but it's not traditionally how we had operated. We tried it this year. It worked really well as serving as kind of backup to those committees, the local arrangements, the program, the vendor relations committee and supporting them and filling in where needed, or providing history on how things had been done. But beyond that, like, it wasn't doing all of the things. I have just a quick question, and this can be more of a like raise your hand type thing, so that I can go look at your websites if you have information out there. I know I've kind of chatted with Tiffany about this through email, but does anybody have a reciprocity statement on their website for those that work hybrid? So they may physically live in your region or state, but they work for an institution that's not a member of your organization. How are you charging them any sort of membership? Are they affiliate? Do they have a specific role in member clicks? That is not show of hands, I just realized. But if you have something to point me to, I would love to do further research.
For Kansas, if their institution is outside the state, they can apply for associate membership on there. Our rosters are unlimited again, so they can have as many people added to their account as possible. But yeah, anything that's not within the state would be an associate membership aspect of it.
Is that like how expensive is that? Can I ask?
Let me pull it up here.
I saw somebody had it for like $20.
Yeah, it's our membership dues are not that much when it comes down to it. Here, sorry.
No, you're fine. You can always send it to me later.
I'll send it to you when I find it here.
That's great. Thank you.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, in order to be cognizant of everybody's time, maybe we'll just kind of start our wrap up. I really appreciate the discussion today, everybody. This has been great. Just some state and regional resources to remind you of. We do have a state and regional website on ACRO's main page that has our how-to guide, a fundamentals course. You can join the listserv. The State and Regional Relations Committee does have monthly webinars. They're the second Wednesday of each month generally. Our next one's coming up on Wednesday, December 13th, and you can already find that webinar on the ACRO events calendar if you want to register in advance. And then lastly, state and regional leaders, we do have a presence on ACRO Exchange. So I know we're all getting used to the new ACRO Exchange platform, but you can find us there and join in the conversation. All right. Thank you all very much. It was great talking to you. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, and depending on where you are, stay warm.
Bye.
Oh, Chris mentions we have a Facebook group too. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
You guys.
Bye.